everyone, this is FantasyEsque and welcome to the Vampire Amazon Generation 1 predictions. In this video, we will be going through all the signs that the ladies born in Generation 1 received and what those signs ended up meaning either in Generation 1 as a child and teen or in Generation 2 as an adult. So, here we go. We'll start off with Ophelia Cavador. So when Ophelia was young, the signs she received from the priestess were handcuffs, gravestone, and stink. Now the outcome we ended up having for Ophelia with handcuffs, she was imprisoned as a teen because of a scandal. So you guys will remember that she received mushrooms inadvertently from priestess Amanda. And as a result of that, she went on a little bit of a drinking spree where she was drinking from the prey garden by herself without permission from the queen and threatening the coven's blood supply. So that's what she was doing, and then she got caught for that red-handed, thrown into jail, and basically I think we had a prison fort put up just for her when she did that. And then we had a very first trial and all of those things going on, but luckily she got released in the end. But she was involved in a scandal and she did get arrested for that, so there we go, that's how handcuffs came true for her. We also had gravestone. So for that, Ophelia visited the gravestone of Cynthia where, and this ties in with her next prediction, stink, she learned of Morgana's betrayal and involvement in a murder. So you guys will remember that around the time where Cynthia died, after we had the funeral and everything, Narcissa visited Ophelia at the creature cradle and offered to look after the children for a little bit while Ophelia went off to basically see the remains of Cynthia at the honor grounds. Because if you guys remember, around Ophelia's scandal, it was actually Cynthia who stood up for Ophelia and basically made sure that her mother did a proper investigation and that Ophelia was released in the end. So it's kind of a returning a favor, I guess, or giving her thanks to Cynthia one last time. Ophelia went ahead to visit Cynthia's gravestone, where she came into contact with the caretaker, I think it was. Is it the gravekeeper? She came into contact with the gravekeeper, whose name I cannot remember. I think it was Azalia. And Azalia hears all these ghosts all the time, so she hears all these ghosts because of where she stays, and so she found out that, Cynthia's ghost has been going around the cemetery and she's been saying these odd things. And so she let Ophelia know what those things were, and that resulted in Ophelia finding out that Morgana had some sort of connection with the death of Cynthia. So that's how the predictions of Ophelia, I guess, came true. But there we go. Okay, the next one we have is Cassandra Salazar. The signs that this princess received was gravestone, sun, and rain. And the outcome for those, for gravestone, Cassandra died before being able to challenge the queen, which all of you guys should already be familiar with. She wasn't a teen, she was a young adult, but before she was able to win against the warrior to qualify for being able to challenge the queen, she passed away, unfortunately, and then the crown, or the title of heiress, went to her younger sister Narcissa. Now, sun, her method of death was exposure to sunlight while out in Forgotten Hollow, which again was pretty random and quite unexpected, but that's what ended up happening. And then rain, her death caused grief in all members of the coven and eternal sadness in the next queen. So as part of the whole sun thing, her mother ended up being really paranoid, wouldn't let her sisters out of the house after her death so that at least one of them could make it to the throne. And then in terms of Rain, she did have a huge impact in her sisters, her mother, a lot of members of the coven. Even Ambrosia kind of became very, not violent, but aggressive towards Princess Narcissa because she felt as though somehow it was her fault that Cassandra had died. And then obviously Narcissa carried the weight and burden of Cassandra's death throughout her life, being eternally sad, which you guys will have seen in the second season if you did watch that. But that's pretty much Cassandra's signs. Now on to Cynthia Rana, our Generation 2 warrior. The signs she received were wealth, games, and Lady Amanda. The outcome for these signs, wealth, Cynthia was sent by the queen to acquire treasures for the coven. You guys will know that she, along with Lilith, was sent to Salvadorada to acquire some treasures for the royal treasury because we were facing a time where I think our funds were getting a little bit low. Either that or the queen was just trying to think ahead into the future and make sure that the coven would be well catered for and cared for in, like, if that sort of thing ever happened and they faced a shortage in terms of their funds. But before she left, in terms of the second sign, games, she was involved in a play of power over the queen with Lady Morgana. So traditionally the warrior and the queen have been really close. We saw that with Cynthia's mother Kali and Queen Sheba. Now, Cynthia was quite close to Princess Cassandra before she died, but after Narcissa became queen, then Cynthia's duty was kind of towards Narcissa, and then she realized at some point that, wait a second, how come Morgana is closer to Narcissa than I am when I'm the one charged with her security and safety? And so she was making an effort to become closer to Narcissa. Not only that, but she noticed that Morgana was doing some very interesting things, like sitting on the queen's throne when nobody was in the throne room or things like that. Morgana was basically making herself privy to a lot of things that was specifically for the queen. And so Cynthia was trying to defend the queen in making Morgana basically know her place. Unfortunately, Morgana did not like that. And this goes into the third sign, Lady Amanda. So Amanda's bloodline brought an end to Cynthia's life. And we know that because Morgana is the daughter of Lady Amanda, and Morgana was the one who ended up killing Cynthia while Cynthia was out in Salvadorada with Princess Lilith. And that's practically the prediction for Cynthia. Our Generation 2 Queen Narcissa Salazar, the signs that she received were llama, lightbulb, and games. Now the outcome of these signs, for llama, Narcissa broke tradition by getting married to Lady Morgana. There's no rules saying that the queens cannot marry anyone, but based on what her mother did and how her mother ruled at her time, she basically had flings, like romantic flings here and there, but she never really gave a heart to anyone, and she didn't ever get involved with anyone in any sort of serious relationship. And, I mean, marriage is pretty serious, and Narcissa did the complete opposite of that. Granted that she was forced into a marriage by Lady Morgana, but she did get married to her, and she chose to stay married to her even after that whole ordeal. So she did go ahead and break tradition in a sense by doing that. The second sign, Lightbulb, she came up with many new architectural ideas for the castle. And you'll see that Castle Narcissa actually has a lot of amenities and things that Castle Sheba didn't. And vice versa, it is kind of equal in some sense, I guess, but we did have a lot more land space. Not only that, but there were different needs with Narcissa's reign that she went ahead and implemented, so it was interesting to see some of her creative ideas for what would take place around the castle. And for games, she was the victim of mind games and manipulation throughout her reign. In one of the previous slides, we did talk about both Cynthia and, I don't think we've spoken about Morgana just yet, but we did speak about Cynthia and how basically Morgana was playing mind games with the queen, essentially. She was very possessive of the queen and romantically inclined towards her, of course, thinking that the queen was a soulmate, and so she did everything in her power to get rid of anyone who came between her and the queen. And she also made it so that basically Narcissa fell in love with Morgana, although I guess the whole love part wasn't the result of any magic or anything, that was just natural. But at the end of the day, she used that love to manipulate Narcissa and make it so that basically no one could do anything to Morgana. So unfortunately, Narcissa ended up being a really weak queen, unlike her mother Sheba, but that's pretty much her prediction. Our Generation 2 Priestess and Villain Morgana Devilzar. The signs she received were Cowplant, Travel, and Trash Can. Now the outcome of these signs, for Cowplant, Morgana was responsible for the death of many coven members. At some point she did go ahead and actually get a cowplant, but that cowplant ended up dying, and I like to think that in the later parts of the season that cowplant, the dead cowplant, was kind of a symbol for all the people that Morgana has killed, and kind of stood as a symbol of the death that Morgana will cause and has caused. So basically, she's permeated and responsible for the death of everyone in the coven. Pretty much, almost everyone, I think. Except for Kennedy, because well, Narcissa killed Kennedy because she went crazy at the end, but yeah, that's what we have. And then for travel, she traveled much within the queendom, even amassing a private army. So we saw that before she got married to Queen Narcissa. She basically was traveling around a whole heap between the different territories that the queen had, and she spent quite a bit of time in Eucharist in the embassy, where she basically turned half the ladies under the queen's service basically in her favor, and then she used them to amass a private army that she used to attack the castle and then capture everyone and threaten the queen with marriage to get everyone out. So that's what she did. And then Trash Can, she was quite traitorous, we know, and easily discarded the people she used. In fact, after getting married to the queen, as a wedding present, she actually burnt her private army alive to present the queen with the death of everyone who betrayed the coven, and also to make the queen feel safe again and trust in her, which is a very psycho way of proving your love and trying to make someone feel safe, but that's what she did, and I think that's about her prediction. And finally, we have Princess Lilith Salazar, our Generation 2 scholar. The signs that she got was ghosts, moving, and Lilith. The outcome of these signs: ghosts, Lilith was possessed by a spirit from a young age and acquired voodoo powers. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see those powers into fruition completely, but she did have a voodoo doll that she played around with, and I think she dabbled in the mischief skill, which was a little bit unique to her. And I think when she went to Salvadorado with Cynthia and Cynthia died, at first Lilith was very terrified because she didn't have full control of the spirit within her, and to some extent she actually thought that maybe she was the one who caused Cynthia's death accidentally. Maybe going to Salvadorado actually triggered something that caused the spirit to lash out and kill Cynthia. But luckily that didn't end up being the case, as we later found out, because Morgana was responsible for the death of Cynthia. Moving, the second sign, she was sent to Salvadorado where Cynthia died and her life was put in danger. Yep, we just covered that. So it kind of goes into play with the first part of her sign, and then even the second part, everything's connected pretty much. But yeah, she did go to Salvadorado. Cynthia died, and I think Lilith ended up staying over there and actually getting some of the treasure before she came back. But during the time she was there, I think Cynthia died very early in their trip, and so her life was in danger, and at the end of the day, she had to decide between her safety and her duty, and she went ahead and did what the queen asked her to do, and even brought back the ashes of Cynthia so that the coven could mourn her. Now the third sign, Lilith, she was used in the end as a blood sacrifice by Lady Morgana and killed. At the time, Morgana was pregnant, and Morgana wanted to have a baby girl because she'd only had boys before, and she thought that if she used the princess as a blood sacrifice that she would get a girl. Unfortunately, that was in vain, because even after Lilith died and was used, Morgana ended up having a boy. So I think those are pretty much all the predictions, guys. I know this video was super quick, but I hope that helped and gave you guys a little bit of a refresher and a reminder of what happened throughout the season and what happened throughout the lives of these important characters, what signs we received, and maybe even reminded you of what predictions you guys gave me back in Season 1 that may have guided my decision to create stories which resulted in these outcomes. But I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. This is gonna be the final video before Season 3. The last one was supposed to be, but one of you awesome lovelies reminded me that, hey, we still have predictions to go over, and so I ended up making this video. Again, I apologize if it was shorter than you would have liked it, but really, I just wanted a brief summary on certain things, but there we go. Anyways, guys, hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in Season 3. Bye-bye.